All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating book, I think,
Hmm.
especially because, sometimes personal finance can feel,
Dry.
yeah, a little dry, right?
Yeah.
All about, number crunching and
Mm.
spreadsheets and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
this book really gets into like the nitty gritty of how our minds can sometimes totally mess with our money decisions.
Yeah. And Housel's background is really interesting, too. He's a partner at Collaborative Fund.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he used to be a columnist for the Wall Street Journal and the Motley Fool. So
Wow.
he's really got his finger on the pulse of, how people think about money.
Yeah, he really does. And one of the big things that he talks about that really resonated with me was this idea that understanding your own psychology is just as important as,
Understanding, like, the stock market or...
yeah, exactly, like how to pick stocks
Mhm.
or any of that stuff. It's really about like,
Your own behavior.
yeah, your own behavior and your own like internal biases and all that.
Yeah, and he does a great job of bringing these ideas to life too. He uses all these stories about real people and like
It's
their
financial,
yeah,
yeah.
their financial wins and fails.
It's kind of like a,
A soap opera,
yeah, financial soap opera
but with the
with actual lessons to be learned.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the stories that really stuck with me was I think it was in the first chapter. It was about this investor who made a fortune betting against the housing market, like back in
Oh yeah, that one's a classic.
talk about a gutsy move.
Yeah, I mean he really saw what was coming and
Yeah.
and he made a killing. But here's the thing.
Okay.
Even after that massive success, he ended up losing it all because he kept chasing bigger and bigger returns.
Oh, wow.
So
That's kind of a cautionary tale.
no, absolutely. It's a perfect example of how even the smartest people can get tripped up by their own psychology.
Yeah, it's so true.
Mm.
And it kind of makes you think like, how often do we do that?
Like, how often do we overestimate our own abilities and forget that luck plays a role, too?
Oh, all the time. I think it's human nature.
Yeah, I know. I've definitely fallen into that trap before,
Like
thinking,
you're smarter than you actually are.
yeah, and thinking that, like, all my successes are due to my own brilliance and, any failures are just like,
Bad luck.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we kind of acknowledge that role of luck without just feeling like everything's totally out of our control?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? I think what Housel's trying to say is like, don't become paralyzed by the idea of luck, but also, be a little bit more realistic.
Right.
Like, yeah, celebrate those wins, but also, maybe you got a little lucky along the way.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, don't beat yourself up too much when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just bad luck, plain and simple.
It's a good reminder to stay humble, I think.
Oh, for sure.
And this all kind of ties into another one of Housel's big points, which is this emphasis on long-term thinking.
He's really all about, the magic of compounding.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful concept.
This idea that like small, consistent investments can really snowball over time.
Right.
It's like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
I love that quote.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so true. And it applies to investing as well.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Even small amounts invested consistently can really grow significantly over time.
Right.
But that's where our brains start to work against us.
Okay.
We're wired for instant gratification. Think about it. How easy is it to like resist that impulse purchase online
Oh my God.
or to like put off, a fun weekend getaway to save a little extra?
It's so hard.
It is. It's tough.
Delayed gratification is not,
It's not easy.
it's not easy, especially in today's world.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we combat that urge to chase those shiny short-term gains? The ones that often lead to those impulsive decisions that we later regret.
Well, Hassel has some interesting ideas about that. He talks about the importance of really visualizing your long-term goals. Like really think about what you want your life to look like in 5, 10, even 20 years.
yeah.
Once you have that picture in your mind, it becomes a lot easier to resist those tempting short-term distractions.
It's like having a North Star to
Exactly.
guide your financial decisions.
It gives you that sense of purpose and direction.
And it kind of brings us to another one of Housel's big ideas, which is this distinction between wealth and riches.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
He says that riches are all about, flashy spending and showing off what you have.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly.
Mm.
While wealth is more about building assets that generate income over time.
Right. It's about building that financial security.
Yeah. It's like the difference between looking rich and actually being financially secure.
It's a crucial distinction. And, it's so easy to get caught up in appearances, especially in today's social media-driven world.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on social media.
It's like everyone's trying to project this image of,
Perfection.
yeah, perfection and wealth.
Yeah.
They're flaunting their designer clothes, their luxury vacations.
Like a highlight reel.
Exactly. And it's so easy to fall into that comparison trap and think, well, I need that too.
Yeah, you start to feel inadequate.
Totally.
Like you're not measuring up.
Right.
But what Housel's trying to get us to see is that true wealth is often invisible.
It's about having that financial freedom and peace of mind, not just, keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this brings up a question for you listening.
Okay.
What does true wealth mean to you personally?
That's a great question.
Is it having the freedom to pursue your passions? Is it providing security for your family? Is it having the flexibility to travel the world?
I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But defining what wealth means to you is that first step in actually achieving it.
I love that. And this all ties into Housel's belief that the ability to save is more important than the amount you save.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's about forming those good habits early on, even if you're starting small.
Right. Consistency is key.
Yeah. It's like building a muscle.
Exactly.
The more you do it, the stronger you become.
I like that analogy.
And this is especially important today because we're constantly bombarded with messages telling us to buy, buy, buy.
Oh, yeah, the consumerism is out of control.
It's so easy to fall into that comparison trap and feel like we're not measuring up to everyone else's
perfectly curated lives.
Right. Like everyone on social media seems to have it all figured out.
Because finances are perfect.
Yeah. But we all know that's not reality.
Of course not. Nobody's posting about their credit card debt or their struggles to make ends meet.
Exactly. So how do we break free from that comparison game? How do we focus on our own financial journey without getting sucked into those carefully crafted online personas?
Well, I think the first step is awareness. Just recognizing that what you're seeing online is often a distorted view of reality. And then try to shift your focus inward. What are your financial goals? What are your values? What kind of life do you want to create?
I love that.
Remember, your financial journey is unique to you.
Yeah.
And there's no need to compare yourself to anyone else.
It's about tuning out the noise.
Yeah.
And really honing in on what matters most to you.
Exactly.
And speaking of noise, have you ever made a financial decision that you later regretted because you got caught up in the hype?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Like maybe you were feeling overly confident or just afraid of missing out?
Oh, FOMO is a real thing.
It is.
Especially when it comes to investing.
Yeah, and how Housel talks about this, he calls them behavioral biases.
Yeah, those little mental shortcuts that our brains take.
That can sometimes lead us astray.
Exactly, like loss aversion, for example.
Okay.
We feel the pain of a loss much more intensely than the pleasure of an equal gain.
That makes sense.
So we tend to avoid risks even when they might be beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, it explains why sometimes we hold on to losing investments for too long
or we sell winners too early.
Yeah, exactly.
Fear and greed really drive a lot of our financial decisions.
So if our brains are practically wired to make these financial blunders, are we just doomed to repeat them?
I wouldn't say doomed. I mean, there are things we can do to combat these biases.
Okay.
But first, we need to be aware of them.
So it's like having a little
alarm bell.
Yeah, that goes off in your head when you're about to make a decision based on fear or greed.
Exactly. And once you've identified the bias, you can start to counteract it.
Okay. How do you do that?
Well, for example, if you're feeling overly confident about an investment,
yeah.
Take a step back. Ask yourself, am I being realistic here? What are the potential downsides?
Get second opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And if you find yourself getting swept up in like the herd mentality, everyone's buying this hot new stock.
Yeah.
Try to seek out diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
Talk to people who have different financial viewpoints.
Yeah.
Read articles that challenge your assumptions.
Do your own research.
Exactly. It's all about being a critical thinker and not letting your emotions hijack your financial decisions.
That's great advice.
I think so, too. It's like when he talks about the Great Depression, and how that experience really shaped an entire generation's views on risk and saving.
Yeah, imagine living through a time when people lost everything, right? Like their homes, their savings, their livelihoods.
It's no wonder that generation developed this like deep-seated fear
of losing everything.
Yeah. And that fear like impacted their financial decisions for decades to come.
It's like we inherit those financial anxieties and biases from previous generations.
It makes you wonder what kind of legacy we're passing on to
I know.
future generations, right? Especially with all the economic uncertainty and technological disruption.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
And in a world that's constantly changing like this,
Yeah.
it's even more important to be adaptable and flexible, right?
Rather than clinging to these, yeah, like rigid financial plans that might not work in the long run.
It's like that Mike Tyson quote.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
You got to be able to roll with those punches.
Financial punches.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this all kind of brings us back to, I think, the core message of the psychology of money, which is,
it's not just about crunching numbers.
Yeah.
It's about understanding ourselves.
Yeah, like our emotions, our biases.
Yeah, fears, our dreams.
All of that.
All those factors influence our financial decisions, often in ways we don't even realize.
It's like he's giving us a crash course in financial therapy.
I love that analogy. It's like unpacking our baggage.
Yeah.
And building a healthier, more mindful relationship with money.
And one of the most important aspects of that therapy, I think, is communication.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Housel talks a lot about the importance of open and honest conversations about money.
Both with ourselves and with the people we care about.
It's so important, and yet it's something that so many people
struggle.
Yeah. Money is often seen as this taboo topic.
It's like the elephant in the room.
Yeah, it's like we'd rather discuss our deepest, darkest secrets than our bank account balances.
It's true. But that silence can create all sorts of problems.
Like what?
Misunderstandings, resentment, even financial instability.
Okay.
Think about couples who avoid talking about money.
Oh, yeah.
That can lead to arguments, power imbalances, even breakups.
Communication is key.
It is. It really is. And it applies to our financial lives just as much as it does to our relationships.
So how do we start breaking down those communication barriers?
Oh, good question.
Like, how do we have more open and honest dialogues about money?
Well, I think it starts with being willing to be vulnerable. Sharing our own experiences, both good and bad.
Yeah.
And creating a safe space where everyone feels comfortable talking about their financial hopes and fears without judgment.
Yeah, that's so important, that safe space.
Because let's be honest.
Money can be a really emotionally charged topic.
It can bring up feelings of shame, guilt, inadequacy, anger.
So it's crucial to approach these conversations.
With empathy.
Yeah. And understanding.
Remembering that everyone has their own unique relationship with money.
Yeah, shaped by their experiences, their values, their beliefs.
And these conversations shouldn't just be about practical matters.
Like budgeting and investing.
Right. They should also be about, aligning our values and goals.
Ooh, that's good.
What do we want our money to do for us? What kind of life do we want to create?
Yeah, those are the big picture questions.
That we often shy away from.
Yeah, it's about aligning your money with your life, not the other way around.
I like that.
And that brings us to another point that Housel makes, which is the difference between, experiential wealth versus material wealth.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic debate.
He argues that spending money on experiences,
like travel, concerts, creating memories,
yeah,
often leads to greater happiness and fulfillment than buying material possessions.
Like that age-old question, do you want things or do you want experiences?
Yeah, and Housel makes a compelling case for experiences.
He does?
Think about it. Those are the things that create lasting memories.
Yeah.
Enrich our lives, connect us to others.
Yeah, those new shoes might give you a temporary boost, but a trip to Italy with your family.
Exactly. That's something you'll cherish forever.
It makes you wonder if we've just gotten our priorities a little mixed up.
I think so. In a society that's constantly telling us to buy more, bigger, better,
yeah,
it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters.
What truly matters? So what does truly matter?
Well, Housel reminds us that true wealth isn't about the size of your bank account.
Okay.
It's about the richness of your life.
And that richness comes from?
Our relationships, our experiences, our passions.
Our contributions to the world.
All those things that money can't buy.
But money can help us create the space and freedom
to pursue those things.
Yeah, to travel, to spend time with loved ones, to pursue our creative passions, to give back to our communities.
It can give us options.
Options.
And flexibility.
It's like Housel saying, don't let money rule your life. Make it work for you.
I love that. And one of the ways we can make money work for us is by understanding that personal finance is deeply personal. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah. What works for one person might not work for another.
And that's something I really appreciate about Housel's approach,
What is it?
He doesn't give you this rigid set of rules to follow.
Right.
He encourages you to find what works best for you.
Yeah, based on your own circumstances, your values, your goals.
It's about finding your own financial rhythm
I like that.
your own path to financial well-being.
And that requires self-awareness, right?
Absolutely. Taking the time to understand your own financial psychology.
Your strengths, your weaknesses.
Your biases.
Yeah, like you're saying, before you try to master the markets, master your own mind.
Because ultimately,
Yeah.
the greatest financial risks we face often come not from external forces, but from our own internal biases and irrational impulses.
So how do we start mastering our minds when it comes to money?
Well, Housel offers several practical strategies.
Okay, like what?
He emphasizes the importance of having a plan.
A plan?
A roadmap that outlines your financial goals, your income, your expenses, your investment strategy.
Okay.
But he also stresses that this plan shouldn't be set in stone.
It's got to be flexible.
Yeah, flexible enough to adapt to life's inevitable curveballs.
Like job loss, unexpected expenses, market fluctuation.
All of that.
Yeah, life happens.
And so is having a system for tracking your spending?
All right.
Housel's a big advocate for budgeting.
Budgeting.
Not as a way to restrict yourself, but as a way to gain awareness of where your money is going.
Yeah.
And make conscious choices about how you want to spend it.
So being intentional with your money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rather than just letting it slip through your fingers without even realizing where it went.
And of course, Housel being a, financial expert.
Yeah.
He's a strong believer in the power of investing for the long term.
Oh, absolutely.
He reminds us that time is our greatest ally when it comes to building wealth.
And he really drives home that concept of compounding.
Compounding.
Which he describes as that magical force that can turn small, consistent investments into a substantial nest egg over time.
But as we discussed earlier, long-term investing requires patience and discipline.
It does.
It's about resisting the urge to chase short-term gains or panic sell when the market dips.
It's about having a solid investment strategy that you can stick with through thick and thin.
Yeah.
Knowing that market fluctuations are inevitable, but over time the market tends to trend upwards.
And you know what else is important for long-term financial success?
What's that?
Gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
And mindfulness.
I love that.
Housel encourages us to appreciate what we have.
Rather than constantly striving for more, more, more.
Yeah, because if we're always focused on what we don't have,
we'll never be truly content.
No matter how much money we accumulate.
It's about shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance.
Abundance.
Recognizing that we already have so much to be grateful for.
Even as we're working towards our future goals.
Exactly. It's about finding contentment in the present moment.
Yeah. Even as we're planning for the future. And it's about remembering that true wealth isn't measured by the size of our bank account.
Right.
But by the richness of our lives.
One of the things that really hit home for me in the psychology of money was how Housel talks about the emotional side of money, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
He really acknowledges that our financial decisions aren't always rational. Like, they're often driven by things like fear, greed, insecurity.
A whole host of emotions.
Yeah, and he even points out how for some people, money can become like a source of identity.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like their net worth is a measure of their value as a person.
That's a dangerous trap to fall into.
It is, because if your self-worth is tied to your financial status, then any financial setback,
like a job loss or a market downturn,
it could feel like a personal attack.
Exactly. And it can lead to some pretty unhealthy behaviors.
Like what?
Overworking, taking excessive risks, even hiding financial problems from loved ones out of shame. So how do we avoid falling into that trap? How do we separate our sense of self-worth from our financial situation?
Well, Housel talks about the importance of detaching our ego from our net worth.
Okay.
Recognizing that our worth as human beings is inherent.
Regardless of.
Yeah, regardless of how much money we have.
That's a really powerful message.
It is. It's a message of liberation.
Yeah.
It frees us from that pressure to constantly strive for more, more, more.
Yeah, it allows us to focus on the things that truly matter.
Our relationships, our health, our passions, our contributions to the world.
And to view money as a tool.
To support those things.
Right. Not as the ultimate measure of success.
Exactly. It's about putting money in its proper place.
Not letting it rule our lives.
Right. But using it as a means to create a life that's aligned with our values.
Now, all this talk about psychology and emotions might make it seem like, Housel is downplaying the importance of practical financial knowledge.
Right.
But that's not the case at all.
No, not at all.
He actually stresses that understanding the mechanics of money is still crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not an either situation.
Right.
It's not like you have to choose between understanding the numbers or understanding your own psychology.
You need both.
You need both.
He talks about budgeting, saving, investing, compound interest, all those fundamental principles of personal finance.
Yeah.
But his point is that those tools are only effective if we're using them in a psychologically sound way.
Right. If we're constantly making financial decisions based on fear, greed, or insecurity,
Then no amount of financial knowledge is going to save us.
it's like having a powerful car but not knowing how to drive it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might have the best engine in the world, but if you don't know how to handle it, you're going to end up crashing.
So Housel advocates for this holistic approach to money management,
One that combines financial literacy with psychological awareness
understanding both the numbers and the emotions.
that drive our financial decisions.
It's about recognizing that money is a complex subject.
Deeply intertwined with our values, our beliefs, or experiences.
Even our culture.
It's not just about spreadsheets and interest rates, it's about who we are as human beings.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the psychology of money,
Yeah,
I'm struck by how much there is to learn from this book.
me too.
It really goes beyond traditional financial advice.
It challenges us to think differently about our relationship with money.
To be more mindful, more intentional, and more aligned with our values when it comes to our financial decisions.
And ultimately, it reminds us that money is a tool.
A tool that can be used to create a life of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment.
So I have a question for you, listening.
Oh,
What's one small step you can take today to improve your own financial well-being?
maybe it's starting a budget.
Or having an honest conversation with your partner about money.
Or maybe it's just taking a few moments to reflect on your financial goals and values.
Whatever it is, remember that even small changes can have a big impact over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't forget, the journey to financial well-being is just that.
A journey.
There will be ups and downs, twists and turns along the way.
But with a little self-awareness, a lot of patience, and a willingness to learn and adapt.
You can create a financial life that supports your dreams and brings you true peace of mind.
That's what it's all about.